Pick an inner city suburb anywhere in Australia and you'll find lots of narrow houses, just like these ones, sitting shoulder to shoulder. I'll show you what I mean. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 steps on the Costa Index is just shy of 5 metres, which is pretty narrow. So there's no room in these houses for a bit of a garden, a veggie patch, or some livestock. Or is there? This home in the Sydney suburb of Alexandria is a dream come true for Julie Young and Geoff Carroll. Their commitment to building an inner city sanctuary that generates its own energy, food, and feels open to the elements is the reason I'm here. So what was it that you wanted from this house?
So the brief we gave the architect was a functional brief. We said how we wanted to live and we left the design work to the designer.
We wanted a house with a lot of natural light and natural air. We wanted to use every room every day. And we wanted a productive garden, so the garden was always a really important feature for us.
Removing the internal staircase and replacing it with a spiral staircase on the front of the building allowed for the whole place to be opened up for light and airflow. And to further help with the movement of air, the 6-metre sash windows of the atrium can actually be raised and lowered using a counterweight that weighs a whopping 500 kilos. But it's the productive backyard with its mini aquaponics setup that I'm really keen to check out.
Having the fish is a really good focal point for friends with kids when they come around. We feed the fish food, they produce nitrogen in the water gets pumped up to the top, up and over, and the bacteria that lives on these expanded clay beads feed off the nitrogen. And what I didn't realise until we started this is that the plants then feed off the bacteria. It's got a secondary effect of filtering the water, so nice clean water. For us, it's an experimental system. It's been really good for growing leafy greens. It's been great for putting cuttings in from gardens from around the neighbourhood.
So how important has water been in the design process?
We wanted to make sure that all the water that fell on the property stayed on the property. So water that falls on the house ends up actually in a below-ground water tank. It's 5,000 litres. It's a good size for Sydney, this climate, and the amount of rainfall that we get and the amount of rainwater that we use. All the water that falls on the backyard ends up actually underneath the garden beds, which are wicking beds. So there are water reservoirs under that bed, and that creates a drought proofing for the trees that are growing there.
Will I let them out? Sure. Wasting no time. How long have you had them?
These ones are maybe about 10 months old. Yeah, and they've just all started laying, which is great. So we get about 3 eggs a day.
Now, my compostometer is telling me that there's compost somewhere here. I can smell it. Is it, am I right?
A very fine-tuned nose costume.
Yeah, I know the smell of compost. This looks like it comes off. Let's have a look under here. Ooh. Colour is very good. The smell is sweet. It's loaded with worms. They're everywhere. Is this one entire bay?
It is, essentially. We start off with the fresh scraps on this side, and as it matures, we turn over the more mature compost into that side just to finish off.
And then what happens with the liquid that falls through?
Well, this was a bit of an experimental system for us. So just like with the aquaponics, we thought we'd try and circulate that compost water into these vertical gardens here. So these are soil-based systems instead of the clay beads with the aquaponics. So we were circulating that about 4 times a day. It didn't quite work, unfortunately. It was just a bit too rich for the veggies there.
Yeah.
So we've switched that off. And now we still use these as planters, but we just water them by hand.
To people with small spaces, what would you say to them about gardening.
There's a lot you can do in a small space. For example, under the fruit trees, we'll plant our lettuces and things. So it's really just layering, I guess, using things with different height can make the most of your space.
But the other thing I think is that it really pays not to be scared of constraints. Having constraints actually really breeds a lot of creativity in how to overcome those constraints.
How do you see it operating with little Sarah now?
It's really lovely now taking her out in the garden each morning and doing the routine with the chooks and the fish and letting her touch the plants. So that's really nice.
Are you living the dream?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, it's lovely waking up to the sound of chooks in the morning and being able to come out and pick some veggies for dinner. But, you know, be in the middle of the city, really. You know, we can run and cycle to work, got shops and restaurants at our doorstep, but we've got a little farmyard out the back. It's a great combination.
What a place. Geoff and Julie really have grown the dream home right here in the suburbs. But just imagine what little Sarah will be able to create with her generation 20 years from now, using some of these design ideas as their inspiration.